I have a lot of things to cover today. I will not be able to cover all of them, but the basic purpose of today's session is to make you understand the importance of the essay paper in clearing the mains UPSC exam. And essay paper has a vital role to play, not only in terms of giving you a greater number of marks as compared to other students, which helps you in clearing the main exam and move on to the interview stage, but it also gives you a lump sum of scores collectively, which helps you get a higher position, as a result of which you can decide which particular service you can join. We look at the kind of essays which are taught in schools and colleges and the type of essays which have actually appear in case of the UPSC essay paper. We'll see what are the tested parameters on the essay paper. We learn how to use domain knowledge which has been picked up from GS papers and from current affairs in order to enrich your essays. The essay paper is not about knowledge, but it is about how you present yourself, and it reflects your personality to a great extent. Yes, personality testing happens at the interview stage, but a greater amount of personality testing and testing of your attitude, your perception, how you think, what is your viewpoint about your own country, and how do you want to handle things, all of that get reflected better in case of the essay paper. But in order to show all of that, you definitely require a lot of domain knowledge, a lot of subject knowledge of GS papers and current affairs in order to enrich your essays. Plus, we look at short-term and long-term preparation for essay paper, the timelines that you need to maintain, and how to synchronize your GS preparation and your essay preparation. Also, we'll understand how to develop the tested parameters in case of this particular examination, and the attitude and perception which is required for the essays, plus how you can possibly win over people who are going to check your essay, your assessors from UPSC, and how can we possibly help you in scoring higher here. So, if I talk about significance of the essay paper for a student, then this is the latest essay paper. It had two clear sections. It has four topics or four prompts, essay prompts in each of the sections, and you need to pick up one prompt from each of the sections, section A and section B. And these sections A and B are technically different. We'll understand how they are technically different. And a lot of preparation and a lot of higher scores on essays are decided by your ability to choose the right essay topic also. So even after you've learned how to write essays, out of the four topics which are given in each section, you have to be excellent at deciding which topic serves your interest in a better manner. So in order to understand the importance of various kinds of preparation which students do, we went in for looking at the main examination scores of toppers. And we compared those scores with scores which average students normally get, all students normally get, an average of all the scores. We had to talk to a lot of students. Students were not very open about the idea of giving an idea about their own scores in the mains examination if they did not clear it. The scores of toppers were much easily available. So we looked at all the scores which toppers in the last 12 years have received. We had score of Shakti Dubey, who was the last topper. Then there was Aditya Srivastav in the year before that, which is 2023. Then 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019, and the previous years. And based upon that, we went in for collating all of that. I want you to take a screenshot of this particular slide right now. This is the first slide. I'm going to teach you something from this particular slide at a later stage, but I want you to have a record of this particular slide. This slide gives you an idea about the scores received by the toppers of UPSC across the last 12 years. What their optional subjects were, how much of score they got in essay in the GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4, and in case of optional paper 1 and 2, and what score they got in case of their personal interview also, personality test as we call it. But one indicator which I want to give you right now, although I'm going to go into details of this whole analysis, one indicator which you should have is that the score which has to be targeted, the overall final score which has to be targeted, which means score of a main examination plus your interview, is something around 1050. Some toppers have crossed that, some have been below that, but then 1050 is a targeted score. You have to find ways to get that particular score. Please take a screenshot, then we move on ahead. The most important section for us is this particular part. Optional subject, essay paper, GS 1, 2, 3, 4, this particular portion. So when we did an analysis and we looked at scores of all the students, which is average scores, compared it with the average score of toppers across the last 12 years, and the highest score which anyone got in case of all of these papers, then the first few things which emerged were that out of GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4, students on an average get higher scores in case of the GS paper 1, and they get the lowest scores in case of GS paper 3. In case of GS paper 2 and GS paper 4, they get almost the same kind of scores. So if I look at it, almost all hardworking students get a certain range of scores in case of GS paper 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if students get almost the same kind of scores in case of GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4 with small variations, then what really helps some students get selected in the mains exam? And the reason why some students end up getting selected in the mains examination is that there is actually a certain amount of variation in case of scores of the optional papers, optional paper 1 and 2. And in case of optional paper 1 and 2, students on an average get 100 marks in case of optional paper 1, and they get 110 marks in case of optional paper 2. Optional paper 2 is more applied in nature. As a result, students find it more interesting. So automatically they end up giving more time to it, not because it is easier or more scoring, but because they end up giving more time to it because of their interest which develops. That is the reason why students normally end up getting higher scores in case of the second optional paper. In case of toppers, you can see that there is a wider variation. If the average score in case of optional paper 1 for all students was somewhere around 100, toppers ended up getting 154 in the last 12 years. And as far as paper 2 was concerned, they got somewhere around 157. So they were not affected by their interest in paper 2 or the amount of interest they developed in paper 2, but then roughly they got the same kind of score in case of paper 1 and paper 2, and that was 150 plus. So there was a clear 50 mark edge which they ended up getting in case of optional paper. So 50 here, about 100 marks edge. But the difference between normal students on an average and toppers was higher in case of the essay paper. In case of the essay paper, normally students end up getting an average score of 70, which is on the lower side, and I'll explain why it is on the lower side. And toppers normally ended up getting a score of somewhere around 136, which means there was a clear 66 mark difference between scores which are obtained by other students and scores which toppers got. Rather, the highest score which somebody got in the last 12 years in case of essay paper was somewhere around 180, which is super high. No other score has been above 180, which means that if you want to develop an edge above other students after qualifying the prelims and in the mains examination, then that edge is something which gets developed to a certain extent in case of your optional papers, where you can get an edge of about 50 marks, and you can get an edge of around 66 marks in case of essay paper if you work hard in case of the essay paper. This is the biggest significance of the essay paper for a student. Now, when I'm advising you upon this particular part, I'm not advising you because I prepare students for the essay paper, but I want you to be very clear that I definitely want you to have a higher score in GS paper 1, 2, 3, and 4. Out of these 4 papers, we have the greatest scope of getting a higher score in case of GS paper 4. And you have to take care that because almost everyone gets a low score on GS paper 3, so I want you to ensure that you do not get a comparatively lower score. Your score in case of GS paper 3 should be as high as the score which you get in GS paper 1, 2, and 4. And the highest score which you can get in case of GS paper 1, 2, 3, and 4 is in case of GS paper 4. So you need to be great at this particular paper. And you have to ensure that you end up getting the edge which is possible and which toppers make possible in case of the optional papers and in case of the essay paper. There's one more step to this whole process, and that is when we look at the role of the personality test or the interview. In case of interview, the highest score or the final score which students got is somewhere around 906 in case of the mains exam. And in case of personality test, the highest score possible has been 182. This is of a particular student from Kerala, a female student from Kerala. So if you look at the marks which students get in case of interview, then average marks of well-prepared students is somewhere around 100. But this score can go as high as 182. So there's an 82 mark edge which you can get in case of your interview also. Also understand very clearly that normally, stereotypically, males end up getting slightly lower marks in case of interviews because they're not very good at opening up and speaking clearly. They do a lot of analysis before they speak and they prefer not speaking too much. This is something which ends up bringing down scores in case of the interviews for males. The same is the situation in case of the essay paper. Essay paper also requires you to open up and write freely. Correct yourself and then write freely. So this is the reason why in the initial stages of this course, I'm going to work upon your personality also. If there is a certain element inside you which stops you from expressing yourself, I'm going to open that up. Please take a screenshot of this slide also, and then we move on here. Okay, so I'm summarizing things now. If you look at your selection process, then almost everyone gets the same kind of scores in case of paper 1, 2, 3, and 4. The deciding factors because of which you get selected and you move on towards the interview and you get invited for the interview are two things. Our edge which you can possibly get in case of your optional subject paper 1 and 2 and in case of the essay paper. So don't leave any stone unturned in case of these areas. Although I'm still recommending that you try to get as high a score as possible in case of GS paper 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if I start with your background in essays, then something which acts as a raw material for your essay preparation actually starts in the third standard. Some kind of a writing activity starts, and teachers give you something called as paragraph writing. A single paragraph is to be written by you on a certain topic. There is also something called as diary entry where you write down what happened on a particular day, or there's some other report which you have to prepare. The technical term essay nowadays is something which appears in the 8th standard. In the 8th standard, you end up writing things which are several paragraphs long, which qualify as an essay. And how properly are you trained to write essays by a school depends upon your English teacher. It does not depend upon the syllabus. It is not every teacher who teaches properly which will help you in writing essays. But there are some teachers who are very good and they actually train you very properly so that you can write better essays as compared to other people. And you learn the mechanics of writing essays as such. So if I look at typical essay preparation of students, then there are three broad milestones which are there. Uh, when students start their preparation, which normally happens somewhere around the month of May, June, at that particular stage, students have an impression, a clear impression, almost 99% of the students have that impression, that because essay requires me to have a clear idea about GS paper 1, 2, 3, and 4, so let me not write any essays at the moment. Let me not start my essay preparation. Let me cover up the syllabus of GS paper 1, 2, 3, and 4. And once I've covered my syllabus of GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4, and all my content is in place, then I will be in a position to write essays and I will start my preparation myself or I'll take help from somebody. But the problem is that the syllabus of your UPSC main examination, GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4, is so huge, and your syllabus of optional paper is also so huge that students never actually feel very comfortable with the amount of knowledge which they have of the general studies. As a result of which, they keep on delaying their preparation of essay. And although once in a while they would write some answers of questions which appear in case of GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4, but formal preparation for essays does not start. So somewhere around June, nobody actually starts their preparation for essays, which is a big mistake. Plus, if you look at the topics of essays, which is one method by which students start preparation of a certain subject, when they look at the topic of essays, they start getting a very clear impression that I need to have a lot of subject knowledge even before I can think about writing an essay. For example, this particular topic. As a result, they keep on delaying this preparation. Somewhere around November, they get a second reminder that they need to start the preparation of essays because somebody mentioned that they have started preparation. But then there is always a psychological barrier which stops them from writing essays. And then the prelim examination happens, and in post-prelim stage, then that is a time when they possibly would start their preparation of essays, and then it may be too late for them to start the preparation. Essay does not require too much of preparation, but that preparation has to start as early as possible, and then you have to continuously keep on doing a little bit of preparation throughout that time period which you have. So please do not worry about your GS 1, 2, 3, 4 preparation not being complete, and even before that you have to start your essay preparation. No, you've got to start your preparation now. So the preparation for essays has to be spread over several months. It is not a lot of preparation, but it is a preparation which has to take a lot of time, several months. You have to slowly learn how to write, and you keep on getting inputs about how to use your general studies and your current affair knowledge. Then, after you've started writing a certain number of essays, then you need to go to the right person who can possibly give you an actionable feedback, as I call it. They will give you a few pointers that in your essay, if these things are done by you, then automatically your essay will end up getting a higher score. So that feedback is very important. And then you have to improve yourself according to feedback. Plus, you need to take a few mock exams so that you get completely fine-tuned in terms of how to handle yourself in the examination hall when the essay paper happens. This is how the preparation should be done by somebody who has not taken professional help and is doing it on his or her own. This brings us to the question: why does UPSC test your essay writing ability in civil service examination when it has already tested your knowledge and understanding of on a plethora of subjects such as history, geography, science, economics, environment, law, culture, ethics, integrity, polity, current affairs, etc. All of these have been tested in case of your prelims and the main examination. Even then, there is an essay paper. So, what is the purpose of that essay paper? That has to be understood now. You have to see which kind of essays are taught back in schools. Schools actually teach us 5 types of essays. And none of these essays appear on the UPSC examination. But the reason I'm teaching you these 5 type of essays is because we are going to take positive, good components of these essays, which we will incorporate in our final essay as such. So, the first type of essay which schools teach you is something which is called as a descriptive essay. This is an essay in which you depict imagery to create a clear picture in the mind of the reader of your essay. For example, if schools give you an essay upon rivers in India, then after somebody has read your essay on rivers in India, that person should have a clear picture about rivers in India. Then there is a slightly different kind of an essay which looks pretty similar, and that is called as an expository essay. Expository essay is the one which provides a lot of evidence, a lot of proof, a lot of statistics, results, facts, figures, etc. on a certain topic. And this kind of an essay is not there to express opinions. For example, if there's an essay upon increasing air pollution in Indian metros, then the purpose of this essay in the school would be only about how alarming is the situation. It should not provide solutions to the problem. It should not provide ways to decrease air pollution. So that's a clear technical rule in case of expository essays. Then there is a narrative essay. Narrative essay is the third type of essay where you tell a story which is based upon your personal experience. For example, if the schools give you an essay which talks about what you did during summer vacations, then you're going to write a story about what happened during the summer vacations. And during this particular essay, you have to tell it according to your own way of thinking, your own way of looking at things, your own perspective. So your perspective is definitely tested out here. Then there is a reflective essay or a critical reflection, as we call it. This is slightly different from all the rest of the essays, and this requires you to think very properly. It identifies questions and assesses your deeply held assumptions about your knowledge, the way we perceive or look at things, events, issues, our belief, our feelings and actions. It focuses on analyzing a notable experience or an event, exploring its significance, impact upon you, and it involves discussing feelings, insights, and lessons learned from that whole experience. For example, an essay upon an experience that changed me as a person, or the most shocking incident which has happened with me, or the best experience which I've ever had, etc. Those kind of essays. This requires you to be a much more creative person who can fantasize to a certain extent also. Then there is an imaginative essay, which is the last type that schools give, and this is purely fictional. And when these essays are written in class and teachers discuss these essays, a lot of laughing around which happens. Teachers have a lot of fun with students. And this imaginative essay is purely fictional and it's made up by the author. You have to write imaginative writing expressions, thoughts, ideas, and stories using the feelings and emotions which you have. And this is different from other type of writing that rely upon presenting facts. It does not have facts. But still, you got to capture an audience. You need to make it interesting enough for the audience and you need to send a certain message. For example, an essay upon if animals can talk. Then this is a hypothetical example. And this would require you to write an imaginative essay. Now, none of the essays which appear in case of UPSC are of of these five types. They don't belong to these five types at all. But then our essays in UPSC will have certain components which will be picked up from different types of essays, as we'll see later. So let's see what really appears in case of the UPSC essay paper. UPSC always tests you only for three types of essays, which are upon seven different themes. And those essays have to be written according to something called as a UPSC perspective, which we are going to slowly understand. So the first type of essay which appears in case, which is required in case of UPSC, is an essay called as an analytical essay. Analytical essay demands that you examine information, you evaluate it, and analytical essay does not simply ask what, where, and when, which means it does not focus upon the knowledge component. Rather, it asks why something happened and how it's happened. For example, 2015, there was an essay upon crisis faced in India. Is it moral or is it economic? This was an essay which required you to do a lot of analysis. Why it happened? Why do we have a crisis at the moment? And how it happened? And then you need to look at various facets which are pro and con, moral and economic. This is the first type of essay. Comes less. The second type of essay, which is a favorite of the UPSC, is something which is called as a persuasive essay or an argumentative essay. This is an essay which provides evidence, statistics, results, focuses on facts of a certain topic. And this type is meant to express opinions about ways to solve problems faced by our country and seek opportunities for development. Two things in the end: solve problems of our country and seek opportunities for development, even if they have not been asked. For example, there was an essay in 2020 about mindful manifesto is the catalyst to a tranquil self. Now, this was a essay which required you to give reasons behind this, and you had to solve problems connected to our country, and you had to give suggestions about how to improve the country in terms of its development. And then there is a new thing which has started appearing more. I'm not saying it appears more, but as compared to previous years, it is appearing more, and that is something called as an abstract essay. A lot of people who do not know what this abstract essay is, they call it the philosophical essay. So one easy way to understand whether somebody understands essays or not is to see whether that person uses the technical term philosophical essays. Philosophical essays are based on philosophy to a certain extent. So abstract essays, which have started coming at a higher frequency nowadays in case of UPSC essay paper, these are essays which do not have a certain defined structure. And any topic about which you do not have background knowledge, you will find it abstract. So people easily use the word philosophical for it. Now, if philosophy is not your forte, if this is your weak area, then anything which you don't understand, you will call it philosophical. But things based upon psychology, things based upon philosophy, things based upon ethics, which is again an uncomfortable area for a lot of us, people call all of those kind of essays as philosophical essays, which is a wrong term to be used. They are basically abstract essays, where you need to do two things. You not only have to write an essay, but you have to interpret the meaning of the essay and see how it is relevant for the UPSC's requirement. Only then you actually start writing it. So abstract essays have two steps. All the rest of the essay have one step. Other essays have one step, and that step is understand the topic, write a good essay. In case of abstract essays, you have to interpret what the essay topic is. How can it be made relevant to solving problems of our country? How can it be relevant to seeking opportunities for development of our country? And how is it connected to our country? Historically, culturally, etc. All of those aspects have to be looked at. But always remember, irrespective of the essay type, topic, or theme, whatever be the topic of the essay which appears in case of UPSC examination, whether the topic is abstract, whether it is concrete like analytical and persuasive, it has to be understood with respect to the Indian context. It has to be analyzed and explained in a persuasive manner, which means in an argumentative manner, which does two things. It should either solve problems of your country or it should proactively seek opportunities for development of your country. This is the underlying motive in case of all of your essays. So I want you to take a screenshot of the present slide now. So whatever be the topic, you have to understand it with respect to the Indian context. You have to analyze it according to the Indian context, and then you've got to explain it in a persuasive or an argumentative manner. So you need to learn what argumentation is, how to convince people in a better manner, and this has to be done in such a manner that it should either solve problems faced by our country or it should proactively seek opportunities for development. It should be suggestive. It should be prescriptive. Please take a screenshot. So let's understand what are tested parameters on the UPSC essay. We are going to learn this in various stages. This is the first stage. You have to understand that as far as tests are concerned, tests belong to two categories. There are aptitude tests and there are achievement tests. Aptitude tests, if you look at them, tests such as CSAT is an aptitude test. Tests such as IMCAT, GMAT, GRE, SAT, SSCGL, all of them are aptitude tests. So the purpose of aptitude tests is to predict future performance of a person, and it evaluates general competencies, which can be competencies which you have since birth, or they can be competencies or abilities which you have acquired over the years, or you acquire them only for the purpose of the examination. This aptitude test will always assess your knowledge, it will assess your intelligence, and something called as smarts, things which you are great at, things for which you have a knack of doing them in the right manner without any effort. The application of aptitude tests in is in next level academic progression. For example, the IMCAT examination is taken so that students can take admission into a higher level of management course. It is used as an elimination test for employment also. For example, UPSC. UPSC uses CSAT to check basic intelligence, and it is used as an elimination test to eliminate almost 70-80% of the people who apply for UPSC's exam. This is aptitude tests. They are different from a second type of test, which are called as achievement tests. Look at their focus. Achievement tests, their purpose is to assess your current situation and evaluate competencies that have recently been learned by you. They assess your knowledge base. Now, when they are testing you, they need to test you upon something, so that excuse which they have is your knowledge base. And they basically test you for your attitude, for your perception or the way you think, and the kind of personality which you have. So, in the end, achievement tests always test you for attitude, perception, and personality. And knowledge base is something which helps in getting tested for all these three broad areas. Their application is in checking yearly academic progression or in higher level employment. For example, UPSC's jobs which UPSC gives you. So for that purpose, achievement tests are used. So achievement tests are comprised of your GS paper 1, 2, 3, and 4. Achievement, even essay paper is your achievement test. Your optional papers are achievement tests. So one clear difference that you can see in case of achievement test, aptitude test is aptitude tests are usually objective in nature. Achievement tests are more subjective in nature. Now, when I use the word subjective, I do not only mean that you've got to write long answers here, subjective long answers, but there's another meaning to the word subjective, and that is there are various answers which are possible to the same question. That subjectivity is present in case of these tests, and that is the basic thing which is being tested. That helps UPSC get an idea about your attitude, your perception, and your personality. Essay paper does this thing best. This is the real significance of the essay paper. So if I look at what are the traits of potential civil servants in case of essays, then uh, they need to have the ability to provide practical solutions to difficult real life problems of life. And real world problems often do not have just a single solution or just a single alternative. Essays can test an individual's ability to understand and solve such complex problems of life. So these are more complicated questions which are asked in case of essays as compared to your questions which appear in case of GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4 and the optional papers. They test your ability to present complex ideas logically in a coherent manner, which can be understood easily by people in a rational or logical manner. And linguistic skills are very important for civil servants. So those linguistic skills or language skills are definitely tested to a great extent in case of essays. Moreover, your personality, your character, your belief system, which are extremely important for a civil servant occupying top positions in government, are tested through the essays. So, to summarize things, real world problems often don't have just a single solution or alternative. Essays can test an individual's ability to understand such complicated situations and solve them as well. So, the questions which appear in case of civil services mains and essay paper, they are slightly unusual and unpredictable. There are no standard or perfectly right ideal answers to complex problems of life. You cannot prepare the right answers in advance. That is the purpose of these questions as such. Time is very limited during the examination, so you cannot really plan or organize your thoughts to a great extent. You can only pour your heart out after you've already done a lot of preparation before that. And this is done in an impromptu manner. You do not get time to do revisions and improve your essays a lot. So when you write descriptive answers or when you write essays during the examination, it helps an examiner know your knowledge, your thoughts and beliefs at a much deeper level to judge your suitability for the UPSC's jobs. So these essays are not just a test of your knowledge, they are a test of your personality, your aptitude, your perception, your thinking process, your belief system. And it also tests your skills of presenting yourself, organizing of ideas, communication of those ideas in an effective and understandable language, in order to measure your critical, analytical, and argumentative skills. So, essays not only test your command over language and your vocabulary, but they also check the ideas which you present and how you present them in an effective manner. Why are all of these skills required? If you look at civil servants have to understand and review existing and old government policies and papers. After they've understood and reviewed them, they have to formulate and draft policies and government papers also. All of these skills are required for these two main jobs of civil servants as such. So what is really needed from you is that you need to be a coherent, well-researched, well thought out, persuasive person who can present himself or herself well in case of your essay. Now comes an important part as to how UPSC actually decides what essay topic to be given to the students. The method is that UPSC studies the real world tasks of an IS officer. It sees what kind of works does an IS officer have to do. IS officers have to understand, draft, frame, and review government policies and papers. They have to supervise the implementation of government schemes and policies. They have to manage and plan for future development. They do a lot of crisis management in case of national calamities, riots, and agitations. And they've got to manage the staff and make the reports based on the evaluation of their services. Based upon all the works which an IAS officer does, UPSC goes in for analyzing the language, knowledge, perception, skills, and arrangement of these skills which are required to perform all of these real world tasks. Based upon that, UPSC goes in for designing of essay topics and questions. I want you to take a screenshot of this particular slide. Okay. So, if I look at foundation of the essay which you're going to write, then let us first of all understand who is the audience for the essay which you are writing. The person who's going to check your essay. In case of interviews, personal interviews, we do have a mix of bureaucrats and academicians. Academicians, when I use the word academician, I mean people who are experts from their subjects as such. They are usually senior people who've taught for at least 10, 20, 30 years at least. And they are normally head of the departments or retired people as such. This is the audience for the essay which you write. Now, somebody who has been teaching their subject for at least 30 years or 20 years, these people will have certain things inside them. And those things which they would have is that they would be great at their subject knowledge. They have taught this particular subject for so many years. These are people who get books for free from various publication houses. So they spend a lot of their time in doing research, in studying, and in making their research scholars do research. So they've got great command over their subjects. They've got great command over language also. They become very good at language as well. So not as an issue. People who check their essays, they will like a person who speaks like them, who writes like them. Which means if you have certain abilities which these people already have, then automatically these people will have a greater tendency to give you more marks. So, what are the things which these people already are good at? These are people who got a good command and sense of English language. So you need to have a good command and sense of English language. These are people who are impeccable at English grammar because they have to write so much and they've got to do so many presentations and they've got to attend so many seminars, etc. Their language skills become excellent. They are also people who are great at vocabulary. They speak a certain kind of vocabulary which a fresh graduate student would not speak or would not use. And there are people who understand something called as rhetorical appeals, rhetorical elements, and rhetorical tools. Now, this is something of which you've been given a slight inkling when you were in seventh or eighth standard back in school, and you were taught something called a simile and metaphor. At that particular time, you were only supposed to mug up the meaning of those technical terms, and you had to identify examples of those rhetorical appeals, etc. But now you will have to learn how to use them so that this person who's going to check your essay will have a tendency to give you more marks. So we'll have to do this in detail. The definitions are not important. What's important is can you identify rhetorical tools and can you incorporate rhetorical tools in case of essays? That is something which is very important. Then you need to be aware about the technical structure and dynamics of essays. What are the various kinds of essays? How should your essay should be structured, etc. What are the do's and don'ts when you're writing essays of various types? Also, then you need to be good in terms of the knowledge which is required for writing an essay. Something which is definitely a hindrance for a lot of people. Here I'm talking about your GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4 knowledge, your current affair knowledge, and you need to be good at generation of resources. So even if a particular essay looks like an essay based upon economics, you have to take care that the examples which you give in case of that particular essay should be picked up from various subjects. This is called as being resourceful. And this resourcefulness is something which is a positive for all people who check your essays. Then you also have to understand the specific needs which different types of essays have. You have to practice and get actionable feedback, which I'm going to provide you a lot. And then, based upon that feedback, you'll have to improve yourself. Plus, the last part of this whole preparation, something which we are going to do possibly another 5, 6 months from now, is we will learn how to choose essay topics out of the two sections. In the beginning, we are not going to differentiate. We'll only learn how to write essays of various types, but how to choose topics from the two sections is something which decides about 20 to 30% of your score. That is the reason why we will learn this last element at a much later stage. So this is what really is given to you. You get an essay each from two sections in your paper. For each section, you've got four options. You get 250 marks in all for your essay paper, and each essay has to be in a 1000 to 1200 word limit range. Now, when we talk about 1000 to 1200 word limit, you have to also understand that this word limit is always plus minus 10%, which means the word limit for you when you're writing your essays should be 950 to 1320. If you are crossing the 1000 word mark, if you're crossing the 1200 word mark, then automatically you have added the first star to your label, which means writing longer essays results in better scores because this not only shows your comfort with language and the amount of knowledge which you have, which you want to share, it also takes care that you can justify the topic of the essay properly. If you write too short an essay, then you will not be able to justify the topic of the essay as such. So, writing longer essays is something which is naturally good. So, what we'll do now is we'll look at a particular topic from the year 2021. In section A, the first topic was the process of self-discovery has now been technologically outsourced. I want you to take 20 minutes to read this particular topic, analyze it, and then write down your own essay as much as possible. For a lot of you, I realize you may not be 100% clear about the meaning of the word self-discovery. That is the reason why I'm giving you one small nudge here, a small hint here. This is what self-discovery really means. Please read this part, which is in a blue background. Understand it properly, and then understand the rest of the topic, and then write your essay. This essay of yours, you are writing for your own self. You're not writing it for me. I'm not going to check this essay. I'm going to check something else later on, which is going to come. But you have exact 20 minutes now. So the time by my watch is exact 9:02. You got time till 9:22. Do not hesitate in writing more and more. The longer your essay, the better. And don't worry, don't feel shy. I'm not going to see this essay of yours, but I want you to give a good shot. I have shared a document with you in chat. Please have a look at that. I want you to compare your essay with this one and do the checking yourself. Write down 3 points how this essay, which I have shared with you, is different from your own essay. You got 4 minutes to do this. This essay has been written by one of my students in the middle of the program. It still has two problems. So don't get impressed by the essay. There are two things which have not been covered properly. Are we ready? I'll show you some broad points which are required to write this kind of an essay. First of all, you need to have your knowledge nuggets in place. By knowledge nuggets, I basically mean your GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4 information, or the knowledge you pick up in case of GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4, and current affairs. You need to have a great sense of English language. You need to be impeccable at grammar, and you must have seen that there was a difference in the writing style of this particular essay. Then you need to be clear about the rules of writing essays, the structure of a right essay, and the composition of various paragraphs. Even paragraphs have certain rules which have to be followed when you're constructing them. Then you have to be good at something called as rhetorical appeals, elements, and tools. And you need to be very clear about four basic genres or types of writing. Writing can be expository, narrative, analytical, or it can be argumentative by nature. So the any essay which is good, it should effectively address the topic and the task which has been given to you. It should be well organized, well developed, using clearly appropriate explanations. It should have diverse exemplifications, different kinds of examples, and or details. It should display unity. It should be in a sequence, in a certain progression, and it should be coherent, understandable. It should display consistent facility in the use of language, demonstrating something called a syntactic variety, which we're going to work upon. You need to have not only a good vocabulary, but you need to choose which right word would convey whatever you're trying to convey. And use of the right idioms is also something which is required. People who are good at language always speak idiomatic language. So let's clear the different types of academic genres. The first type of academic genre is expository genre. And here, as the keyword is the word expose, from where the word expository comes, this kind of writing exposes information about something or someone or an event. It is writing which seeks to explain, illuminate, or expose information. This type of writing can be found in essays, in newspapers. Newspapers always have an expository genre. Magazine articles, instruction manuals, textbooks, and other forms of writing, so long as they try to explain things. So if you look at a booklet which comes along with your smartphone, then that booklet would be written in an expository genre. Second type is called as narrative genre. The word here is narrate, which will help you remember it. You normally narrate a story. So narrative genre is used to write or tell a story. These narratives can be stories, fairy tales, movies, novels, essays, and jokes. So all of these go in for using this particular way of writing. Narratives will always have five elements. There will be certain number of characters with whom a story happens. There will be a setting, a plot, a conflict, and certain theme to that whole story as such. Then comes the important argumentative genre, where the keyword is the word argument, and from where the argumentative genre really starts. And whenever you argue with someone, you always try to persuade that person or you try to convince that person. So, writing which convinces on a certain viewpoint or a conclusion or a solution by providing reasons, data, facts, and figures to prove the viewpoint is called as argumentative style of writing. And then there is analytical genre. The key word here to remember is analyze. So, writing that requires a student to explore a topic, collect, generate, and evaluate evidence, work on establishing a viewpoint or a conclusion or a solution on the topic, and analyze the conclusion is called as analytical genre. These are four different genres. Different parts of your essay should have different components of these four different type of genres. Then, when you write your essay, there are different ways in which you can organize the information. You can either give a description or you can define things, you can classify, you can give a procedure, you can give a sequence or a chronology, you can give a cause and effect relationship, you can compare and contrast things, you can give a problem and then provide solutions to the particular problem. So these are various components of your essay as such. Now, this is the first work which I want to assess. I want you to get your pen and paper ready. I want you to tear out a sheet from your notebook. I'm going to give you some work to do, not a long exercise, a small one. Some of my students who have gone through other programs, they may have gone through this particular assessment. This is my first assessment for any group of students. So, what I want you from you is a small writing sample of about 300 words. You will get a total of 20 minutes to write this. You have to write an article in which you give the answer to the question, introduce yourself. So, when you introduce yourself to the interview panel, how would you introduce yourself? I want you to write that thing down. Based upon whatever you write, I'm going to assess you, and that is going to give us the initial pointers of how to improve your essay as such. So, when you introduce yourself, you can talk about your name, your family, your background, your value system, your educational background, your career plans, your likes, dislikes, hobbies, pastimes, strengths, weaknesses. What kind of person are you? But take care that whatever you write, you have to try to understand how does that issue add value to me. If telling you your name and about your family is going to add value to your introduction, only then go in for adding that part. And also, you should be ready to face more questions on that particular thing which you are covering as part of your introduction. So anything about which you speak during introduction, there's a greater chance of you being asked questions about that particular area. That is the reason why please take care that you specifically mention whatever you're writing as part of your introduction. So if more questions are asked upon the topic, you would have a lot of stuff in your head to give answers to those questions. Exact 20 minutes. This is the last exercise that we're doing today, probably. On top of the page, I want you to write down your name and your phone number and your email ID, and then start writing your introduction. Okay, let's stop wherever you are. I want you to take a photograph of whatever you've written. Based upon this, I will try to assess what kind of personality you exhibit in your writing. We'll study a little bit of that, the personality part, and then we develop a sense of English language is required for essay writing. So these are the two areas on which we'll start working on in the next class: your personality and developing a sense of English language. I want you to take a screenshot and send it to 8800 the number which you already have, or you can send it directly to me, whatever suits you. WhatsApp it. This is all for today. We will have our classes on Wednesday and Friday at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Any questions you have at this stage? The main agenda which I had for today's class was to force you to start writing. So I gave you two writing assignments, and we'll do a lot of that work in case of our future classes. Chalo, that's all for today. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night. Okay. Bye. You'll all be getting the link. I'll ask Shilpi to share it with you. Bye.